The opening weekends for both Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps were good, though not amazing. Superman's box office has really begun to slow down now, bringing in only $13.9 million domestically in its fourth weekend. But First Steps has now had its second weekend, and it's experienced a significant drop-off. To recap, its first weekend saw it bring in $117 million domestically. Its second weekend sees it drop down to $40 million domestically. As per Box Office Mojo, that's a 66% decline. This article is from Forbes. The Fantastic Four First Steps lags second weekend with only $40 million after strong opening. The Fantastic Four First Steps grossed an estimated $40 million at the domestic box office over its second weekend in theaters, according to early estimates, falling below expectations and marking a steep decline after debuting at $117.6 million a week earlier. So a decline from $117.6 million in the first weekend to $40 million in the second. That is a significant drop-off. The new Fantastic Four adaptation starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach and Joseph Quinn remained at the top of the box office charts over its second weekend after becoming Marvel Studios' biggest opening this year. However, box office sales dropped 66% compared to its opening weekend, largely in line with other second weekend declines from Marvel Studios films this year, including Captain America Brave New World, 68% drop after opening at $88 million, and Thunderbolts, 55% drop after opening at $74 million. Now, it's a big problem. It is a big problem because, as this article points out, the decline is in line with the two previous MCU flops of Thunderbolts and Captain America Brave New World. Neither of those films were successful at the box office. First Steps has so far grossed $368.7 million worldwide. So yeah, look, by my estimations and looking at the past trends of MCU films, this looks like another financial failure in the long run because the budgets for these films are they're just too massive to recoup entirely, especially then when you consider the marketing costs. At least in terms of the theatrical run, First Steps doesn't look great. Disney Marvel are going to have to hope for some additional revenue generated from merchandise and the home release market. But as it stands, First Steps is looking like yet another MCU flop. And the reason we can say this with certainty is because we know the kinds of weekend-to-weekend drop-offs these films experience. They make the vast majority of their money within the first couple of weekends. The question is, why have audiences not connected with this film? Why didn't a sufficient number of people pay to see it in the cinema? Because I think it was a decent film, actually. And as you know from my reviews, I preferred First Steps to Superman. I think that First Steps deserved better at the box office. But at the same time, I fully understand why it failed. Right? It's not really a surprise given the state of this franchise at this point in time. There's all sorts of plausible explanations as to why First Steps just hasn't really connected. Is it a bit of Pedro Pascal fatigue? Is it that Fantastic Four films have previously not exactly set the world on fire at the box office? Is it because the MCU's brand has been weakened by so many lackluster installments in recent years and they've possibly hurt this film? Just take a look at Phase 4 of the MCU in cinema. Black Widow, mid. Shang-Chi, mid. Eternals, mid. Spider-Man No Way Home, good. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, woke garbage. Thor Love and Thunder, utter mediocre nonsense bordering on spoof comedy. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, a total snooze fest. That's one good movie out of 7. And take a look at Phase 5. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, a painfully awful CGI mess. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, genuinely decent film. The Marvels, the less said the better, horrifically bad in every regard. Deadpool and Wolverine, good in places, I will say, and very well received, but mostly I think it only really works because of the return of Hugh Jackman. But that's one of the more positive recent films. Captain America Brave New World, utterly mid. Thunderbolts, a good film, but lacking a big draw superhero. Overall, another MCU phase that just lacks consistent quality. And most of the films just weren't up to the standard of the first 3 phases of the MCU. Fantastic Four First Steps is the first film in Phase 6. Now, after the previous 2 phases that I've just gone through, why would anyone be all that bothered paying money to see a Fantastic Four film in the cinema? Especially after the MCU peaked back in 2019, and its primary story, the Infinity Saga, and which was largely its reason for existing, that was played out. That was resolved. That's done. Many of its main characters had already retired. There was a huge amount of the cinema-going audience who were very much invested in the original Avengers characters and that story. And when that was done, when Endgame happened, there was really no reason for them to stick around. And they weren't given any reason. And it's understandable. That's where it should have ended. As generally enjoyable as First Steps may have been, these kinds of films kind of feel like a dime a dozen now. I mean, how many more superhero films do we need each year? Hollywood gave us way too many of these films and saturated the market for about 20 years, and they still haven't learned to become more economical with their expenditure. They throw ridiculous amounts of money at these films. The budgets don't need to be so insanely huge. I think in the long run, they're going to need to return to making films for about $100 million, because otherwise I just can't see them seeing consistent profitability. Now, consider this. Consider just how much more expensive Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are going to be. Consider the budgets of those films, given all of the actors that they're bringing back, including Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, but also many of the X-Men cast, the older X-Men cast coming back. It's a massive crossover film. It is going to be huge. It's supposed to be on the scale of Infinity War. And of course, Secret Wars is supposed to be the kind of endgame conclusion. Those films are going to have just eye-watering budgets, probably way beyond the likes of Fantastic Four First Steps. So those films are going to need to make the kinds of money that Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame did at the box office. Now, to remind you, Infinity War made $2 billion worldwide. Endgame made $2.7 billion worldwide. I can't see a superhero film making that kind of money anytime soon. And I can't see Doomsday being that kind of a draw, even with the return of Robert Downey Jr. I don't think that member berries and nostalgia are going to be enough when it comes to the box office. It wouldn't surprise me if Doomsday and Secret Wars end up being box office bombs due to their budgets being too large to recover. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there and throw it over to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.